Good evening, my friends. Daniel Miller here. How is everybody doing? It's been a long while since we talked, and indeed, it's been a while since we've had our last Destiny broadcast here on Twitch. There have been many reasons for that. I talked privately to quite a few of our fans and followers and people who are regulars, and I explained the reasons as to why the channel could not continue on everyday basis like what we've had earlier last year. In fact, we were streaming Destiny here on the channel for the full 12 months, and as we came to the end, I had to reconsider the degree of investment that was coming to the channel and all else that we accomplished. It was like an annual review, and in fact I was no longer able to dedicate all of my broadcasting time to Destiny streams here on Twitch due to various factors. And also, in addition to that, I wanted to take a breathing space to discuss and to consider in which format the channel should be run once it came to a longer term plan. As you know, we dedicated the channel in the course of the first year completely to Destiny 1 and 2, and there were some extra streams of brand new games that were released during the period, such as Apex and The Division 2, etc. But our community was entirely based on Destiny fans, followers, gamers, competitive and otherwise, and we had a lot of good time really with everyone over a period of 12 months. And I thought that in view of the extensive coverage, we had to be really moving forward. And in the same way as Destiny has been progressing, you know full well that Bungie are operating as a full independent studio again, and that was Activision. And we've had lots of interesting developments on Destiny 2 front. You know that Shadowkeep was introduced in September of last year, and we've had many interesting additions to the actual gameplay. In fact, Destiny 2, as it stands today, is one of the most remarkable shooters ever made. They're trying to combine the RPG element together with what we already knew, and that is still evolving. But personally, I have been very pleased with everything I've seen. As you know, the intention of Bungie is to keep everyone here in our Destiny universe, so people will not really migrate to other games that come out from other publishers, but would stay here at all times, enjoying both our partnership with Bungie as well as all of our community friends and fans and people who are joining us on an everyday basis. Indeed, if you're a streamer, you would have had quite a few people popping in. If you are a private gamer, you'll have your own clan or your own crew that is accomplishing all the tasks, basically neutralizing all the enemies. So it's been a very good period for Destiny overall. The Shadowkeep was well received. Many people had been enjoying gameplay, and I gather from some of our regulars who were popping in and talking to me outside of my broadcasting hour, people like Jesse and Sukapupu, just to name a few, they really enjoyed all of those additions and inclusions. In fact, cross-platform save is the one that was seen as very exciting, and I know that Sukapupu was playing Destiny 2 on his PC compared to all that was completed before, and that was on his PlayStation. So really, our community is as good as always, and I received quite a few messages coming from our fans asking when is the channel going to come back live, when are we going to be resuming. Well, the fact is we are going to be resuming from today, and I can tell you that I may not be having any streams during the week, but on a weekend we can dedicate a few hours to our channel, and we'll take a somewhat different direction to what we've had so far. Destiny will remain the backbone of everything we do here, and Destiny is basically the core game of this channel. So every single time we come live on air, we'll have a bit of Destiny gameplay, be it on Destiny 1 or Destiny 2, regardless. As you know, Destiny 1 has been played by a few people in recent months, and certainly June last year, and ever since the seasons came up on Destiny 2, there has been a steady decrease of gamers trickling along to the original, but nevertheless we are going to be dedicating some of our time to it, be it in the Crucible or in some strikes, or be it with any other replayable mission that is offered in here. Indeed, when we do some of the Destiny 2 gameplay, we are going to be looking at whatever is coming in as new. Part of new seasons, completion of certain quests, and I can tell you I have about 50 different quests that need to be completed in Destiny 2. In fact, I think the Bungie team had really excelled and sort of exceeded themselves with hard work spent on 3 seasons between 2018 and 2019. That's September to September. They produced so many bits of new content, there were so many tasks, quests, acquisitions, and the whole process indeed had continued, although I remember watching an interview with one of their team leaders who said they simply were working flat out for 12 months, hardly taking any breaks or holidays, and they basically considered that kind of work ethic to be unsustainable for longer than 18 months. And I also thought that if you had too many quests and too many things to do, and then ultimately the rewards perhaps would be somewhat minor or perhaps not as applicable to every single character, this could feel a bit difficult, and some players could feel a bit overburdened by the sheer number of tasks that were to be completed. But if there's one thing that's very noticeable if you are coming back to Destiny 2 and indeed playing it under the new auspices, you certainly notice that there are many more enemies, and some of those are really difficult. Ever since we've gone back to the moon, which was after Shadowkeep, we discovered that there were lots of nasty enemies out there, and the entire ritual, which needs to be broken up, is very difficult to complete. And if you get the right crew, you will be indeed playing it for quite a while, and you have a lot of fun. It's very similar to Escalation Protocol on Mars, and it is thoroughly enjoyable. So in fact, you got options between those two. If you want to enjoy either of those activities on either of the planets, you can, but make sure you get really a very, very good group of players together with you, because some of those tasks are very hard to complete, and indeed they are timed, which means if you're a bit late, you are going to be missing the boat. Right, so I've had some messages coming in. People asked, DRBMiller, what on earth have you been doing all these months? And everyone who's been with us for about a year. The other major entity is called Film Dialogue, and it's the entity I spend most of my time on. And I've migrated back to Film Dialogue to a degree. I worked on some new articles, and I have my own online cinematheque, which is streaming and screening films every single day. So if you are a fan or lover of classic cinema, then absolutely have a look. Enjoy some of the articles on Film Dialogue blog, which is on WordPress. It's very easy to find. You just go to filmdialogue.wordpress.com. And there are about 500 articles, I think, currently on display. They include articles on very rare, obscure, almost completely forgotten films from 1930s and 1920s. We have articles dedicated to some of the greatest stars of that period. We have many articles dedicated to the silent era, and very much of interest to the hardcore researchers of film history and people who are very keen on finding out what's been happening with Hollywood and the world film industry right from the beginning. And as I could tell you, there are many, many interesting things to find there. In addition to the actual blog, I have also Film Dialogue Instagram together with its Twitter. Those are extremely busy portals. Instagram is accruing many, many different feeds, likes, and comments and views, and the usual. And it does contain many interesting photographs that are dedicated to cinema history. Then on Twitter we have daily news. They include everything from personal communication to readers through various publications, various news coming from major publications such as IndieWire, The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and all the other ones. And then you're being kept abreast with really the best and the latest. Whatever is happening out in the film industry is there before you if you access my Twitter. So really, Twitter is probably the busiest amongst all. Then we have Pinterest, and then we have on Pinterest you have film posters and film photographs and everything that we previously would have had in our archive. Things like collectibles. You would be collecting stills, or in America they call them lobby cards, or you would collect posters or scrapbooks with various newspaper clippings. All of that is now easily available on Pinterest, and Pinterest is really truly a formidable tool for everyone who is a collector. I think somewhat different to Instagram, because Pinterest is literally like a scrapbook. You can have lots of different albums with various collectibles, and you can paste things which you find on the internet. You can do that directly to Pinterest, so indeed you can customize whatever inclusions you wish to have, and there are many interesting inclusions there. I'm still building it, but I have quite a few dozens of thousands of things on display. The vast majority are dedicated to film stars, which obviously are very popular, then to film posters, and various bits of memorabilia related to cinema history. And then most importantly, I have Cinematheque Online, or as I called it before, Live Cinematheque. And I was doing streams of various films through Rabbit, so people were able to watch those films together with me and enjoy them, obviously throw in the comments, discuss them afterwards. But like many other online portals and hubs, Rabbit was discontinued overnight, I think in June of last year, because basically the investors, people who were funding it, decided to pull plug. They were not happy with the finance and the way Rabbit was developing, and then I couldn't really carry on anymore with that. I've migrated to another hub called Watch Together Online, watchtogether.com, where you indeed can be inviting people to watch everything together with you, but it's less interactive. You're not watching it always in real time, and you don't have the same sort of thing which is identical to Twitch. You watch something live on the screen, people throw in the comments and views, and on Rabbit you could even talk live if you wanted, on video or audio, whichever obviously was of your own personal preference. So instead of that, I had been building my daily playlist on YouTube, and on YouTube I have my Film Dialogue Cinematheque Online, and it does contain dozens of thousands of films and film materials, some documentaries, interviews, clips, all sorts, and they're all selected according to the genre or to a particular section of film history. So there are many interesting programs easily available in public domain, free of charge, are there, and then I select from those films which I consider to be suitable for the very best introduction in film history. And therefore I have my weekly seasons. Every day has a different retrospective of particular artist or genre, and in addition to that I have my daily playlists. So every single day there is a different playlist dedicated to a different genre or to a different season, and you have presently 4 or 5 seasons running per day, and they include animated films together with silent comedy, and then some genre pictures. On Saturday and Sunday we also have some documentaries and some underground films, and all of that makes it a nice variety, literally for anyone who's interested in film history. So I really invite you to join and have a look, because I had spent a lot of time building it, and during the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 months, it really came to full fruition. I managed to capture the system and the format which was originally intended, but perhaps the tech at the time, 5-6 years ago, it was not as well developed as it is today, and therefore I'm able to deliver everything according to my own wishes, exactly as planned, and to the joys of all of those cinematic friends from around the world. It is truly astonishing when I think that as a child I had to go to cinema, I had to be looking at coming soon posters and watch 2 or 3 trailers just before the feature presentation in my local, in order to find out what was happening in the near future. Just easily access it, watch it at will, and it is truly staggering that I can run my magazine, which is published, designed, edited, written and completed all by myself, and of course some of my associates, but primarily at the moment, as this is a startup new project, it's all down to myself. So it's my, we can say, fully auteur type of project. And then in addition to that, all that I write on can then be viewed, if necessary, through various outlets, inclusive of YouTube and various other streaming services. So, access to knowledge is immediate, and people can really learn if they're interested straight away. I was really very encouraged and delighted to discover that in our local libraries in the UK in the last 18 months, they also introduced Reading Book Portal, Hub, application, you name it, the kind of app you can download to your phone, tablet or your computer, through which you can access magazines and books and audiobooks, and it is a truly astonishing service. So in addition to what we can do online through YouTube and startups like mine, we can also use those facilities through public libraries or indeed some specialist libraries for further research. So really the knowledge, the access to it, and the sheer volume of information that is easily accessible to us is simply mind-boggling. And I have a bit of a difficulty in going through it all because it is very voluminous, and I love the fact that I don't have to be any more traveling to a particular library to do steady everyday research, because there are books and publications which I will have to be reading there, the publications that are not accessible anywhere else but in a particular library. But on the other hand, I can use many others, and those are equally good. And also you have a variety of different hubs on the internet which will provide you with books in a PDF format, and therefore you can do all of that research from your own home, particularly on a terrible day weather-wise like the one we have today in the United Kingdom. We are suffering from horrendous storms and massive gale force winds, and I had to go out for dinner and also went out swimming, and it really was dreadful. Gales were, I think, as strong as 80 to 100 miles per hour in my local area, but they were much stronger in our coastal towns and villages, and the rain was just hammering it, and it was unbelievably wet, damp and windy, and I really struggled just to go to my local places around the corner, and got completely drenched, which again was not funny and not entertaining, not enjoyable. I literally for 5 minutes, I just literally walked for 5 minutes and got completely soaked due to that horrendous wind, and nobody was driving in the local area due to this. There was a complete curfew on driving for about 2 hours. The wind really caught up with us halfway through the day, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and in our local county, which is Essex, it was much worse, with some flooding and cars being overturned, roofs being destroyed, and that sort of thing. Massive big storm damage on this day, but what better way to spend it but to stay at home. We say that our home is our castle, and that absolutely proves to be completely fully right today, because I really feel like I'm fully protected exactly where I am in my castle, and I can just do my research, or indeed watch something through my film dialogue hub, learn a bit more about film history, and do everything I love doing the best. So these were the developments that had occurred and evolved during the last few months. So if you asked yourself, where was this Miller, what was he doing, was he just slouching about and looking at the ceiling, reading newspapers and dusting? Well, that definitely was not the case, because Miller was extremely busy with his other projects, inclusive of this one, because although I have not been streaming, I indeed played lots of different games, and I will tell you now what the games were. I thoroughly enjoyed every one of those, and similar to this voluminous knowledge out there through our libraries and online portals, the number of new games that are transpiring, developing and evolving before us is just simply staggering. And I am staggered not just by the quantity but also their quality. They provide you with a variety. If you're a lover of survival-stroke horror, you have quite a variety to choose from. If you love RPGs, there's never ever been a better time to become more acquainted. If you like adventure games, my goodness, Quantic Dream will provide you with some fantastic adventures, and the list goes on and on. So let's have a look at the games I played since September of 2019, and that would be for the last 5 or 6 months. Rainbow Six Siege is the game I love it completely. It is a tactical shooter, and you might have heard on some of our broadcasts when Sakabupa and myself talked that we were considering whether to stream it and play it live, but we thought maybe we'd get better at the game before we really cracked on with it live, because it's a very difficult tactical game played in teams, and you really need to have really good strategies. So I reacquainted with my favorite tactical shooter. After that, I was playing and I was absolutely loving it. Detroit Becoming Human, a game I wanted to play for almost a year, and I did not want to be spending £45 on a brand new game from my local shop, but thankfully we got it for free as part of PlayStation Plus services, and it was delivered together with Heavy Rain, which I already do have from before, and also with Beyond Two Souls. Detroit Deluxe Digital Deluxe Edition includes all 3 games, so we had all of that for free on that PlayStation Plus package, which is really astonishing, and I thoroughly loved all of those 3 games. It's very hard to tell which one I feel closest to. I think Heavy Rain probably is the closest in terms of its own film noir environment, which blends it together with my favourite films of the 40s and 50s. But on the other hand, if we were looking at the complexities, looking at story, and just generally the idea behind the game where you play several characters at once, where you are travelling through time and space, when you're considering several plots that are occurring exactly the same moment, then Detroit is definitely your best bet. It's definitely the most highly developed project that Quantic Dream had ever produced, and it will take you a long while to complete it. Similar to the other projects, you will have your decision making defining your direction, and you will have to be quite careful on how you play your character. If you're familiar with Quantic Dream, generally every single run through gameplay will have to be, I guess, based on a particular approach. So if you want to be playing your character as very good, noble and decent, then stick to that, because the story will develop around that approach. If you're hopping from good to evil, then you may have some inconsistencies, and indeed it's much better if you stick to just one way of being, because on the second gameplay, hey, you could just swing to very evil and you will get a different story. I played Detroit once. It is a big game, and you can finish it in a week or so if you're playing a few hours a day. I think overall about 25-30 hours of the actual gameplay, but the possibilities in there are quite phenomenal, and you will have some twists and turns as you go along, because you are playing 3 characters, and you will try, or you will hope to get the best possible happy ending. But you know what, sometimes that is not possible depending on what kind of decisions you took. And I didn't get a particularly good ending, but 2 characters survived. One of them got killed. I'm not telling you which ones, just in case if you are to be cracking on with this marvelous Quantic Dream masterpiece. I don't want to provide you any spoilers, but you know, that is just the way it is with the game. So Detroit Becoming Human was thoroughly enjoyable. I played it together with a couple of other people. You know that Detroit is a single player game, so it means you're playing with somebody else and you are kind of guiding them what to do, and you know, they're basically holding your controller. But that also has been very, very enjoyable. Beyond Two Souls, I played for the second time. I had a completely different ending as a result, which was also great. Beyond Two Souls also is a game produced by Quantic Dream, the developers of Detroit. After that, I've gone to Vampire, and Vampire is a game that really had quite a frosty response from the gaming community. A lot of people were not that keen on the story, which they found quite complicated, and also they found it a bit tricky with some of the battle sequences, but I felt that the controller didn't work properly, and etc, etc. I completely disagree and utterly dispute some of those claims. Anyone who is British or who's a Londoner, anyone who's lived in London, anyone who loves what Victorian London was like, or indeed Dickensian London, as we know it from Oliver Twist and the Great Expectations novels, will absolutely adore and love the graphics and the visuals of this game. It is not happening during the Victorian times. It's happening towards, I think, at the end of the First World War, 1916, 1917. And London is infested by vampirism. So, you know, a very, very good and very interesting way of finding out what London would have been like had this indeed took place The environment is very atmospheric. We have very many interesting characters who are being met as we explore the darkest secrets of those London streets, and we basically get drawn into a very immersive story which is complicated. There are lots of different tasks that the lead character needs to accomplish, and similar to Detroit, it will be very important whether you want to play this character as good or evil, because if you are playing him as good, you will get one selection of outcomes. If you're playing him as evil, indeed the result will be completely different. The critics had been suggesting that it's perhaps better to play the lead character as evil, because he will be then getting stronger, as indeed he had been contaminated by vampirism. But I'm not 100% convinced. I still haven't finished the game. I'm still playing it. It's a very, very big game. And what's interesting is they have different options where you can be healing people and curing them and collecting various bits of information about them. And it's quite an array of characters. I really like the way the games team really spend time on researching Victorian and I should say First World War London, or World War One London, which is full of characters that are quite applicable to the era, and that was for me the greatest delight once doing the game. Still haven't come to the end of it all, still playing it. Usually I'll play one adventure game which does have a massive story, and then I accompany that with either shooter or survival/horror, because I don't like playing just action all the time. I like having a mixture of the two. So at the moment I'm still getting to the vampire. I've come towards the end. I think I'm approaching the last third of the game. PUBG I visited yet again, and as you know, PUBG together with Rainbow Six Siege is one of my favorite shooters. It's very tactical, requires a lot of skill and practice, and really I find it to be more enjoyable than Apex. You remember that last year when we were promoting Apex, that game was massively overrunning everything we've seen coming for Fortnite or PUBG. But in due course, PUBG does stand out as a tactical shooter, which is quite close to real life compared to Apex, which combines all elements of sci-fi and adventure gaming. So one way or the other, I thoroughly loved it. And if you guys were either in the arena, you might have seen me. Anybody wants to really join us sometimes for a good game of PUBG, give us a shout, send us an email, or throw us a tweet, and I'll be very, very glad to join you. I will not be always streaming those sessions compared to what I was doing in the course of the last year, but we can obviously team up and squad up and run some battles online outside of my streaming hour. The other game I quite liked and played is a PlayStation 3 delight called Deadly Premonition, the director's cut. Anyone who loved X-Files will absolutely adore this game. It does have this X-Files stroke Twin Peaks atmosphere, lots of supernatural events occurring in a remote spot in the middle of nowhere, and an FBI agent who is also quite demented goes in to explore and to find out the ins and outs of those activities. Very, very good story. The graphics perhaps look a bit dated by today's standards, but it works quite well on PlayStation 4. Highly recommended. I'm still playing it and thoroughly enjoying it. Dishonored, another big Bethesda adventure game I played, also love it completely, absolutely wonderful. And the other day, as they introduced the Evil Within on PlayStation Now services, I also joined forces with some of the other gamers in battling the evil happenings on, I can't remember what the city's called, but in that massive big psychiatric hospital with some really, really nasty characters lurking about. And I can tell you that Evil Within, when you come in for the first time, is very, very similar visually and in its concept with Resident Evil. So the Evil Within, Resident Evil, if you are a fan of survival horror gaming, then that is going to be your definite bread and butter. I do not really like the excessive gore and violence in that game. It is absolutely over the top and horrific, and really does have no meaning at all. There's no need for it to be there, because at the end of the day it is all about hiding, evading the enemy, and being able to survive as long as possible. So similar to PUBG in a very different environment, in a different context. But the suspense of it all is very considerable, and the atmosphere is very good. So if you're playing it with on your console, that does have a very good selection of headsets, or indeed on your home cinema. Make sure that neighbors are not able to hear whatever is happening in your living room, because the sounds are very creepy, and indeed if you have like 12 speakers like myself, you are going to be absolutely freaked out, spooked out and terrified as those very nasty characters start chasing you around. So the Evil Within, I'm still playing. I started on it on the day when it was released through PlayStation app, which is I think about 3 or 4 days ago. God of War I played extensively, and God of War certainly must be one of my favorite games of all times. It's just mouth-watering in every aspect, every step of the way. Like they said, a game that won all these awards and absolutely deserved it, because there are so many different avenues of inquiry in there, so many different interesting combat sequences, tutorials, brilliant bits of story, a beautiful adventure stroke fighting stroke whatever you want it to be game where everyone can really enjoy it from beginning to end and replay it as many times as possible. So God of War, absolute true delight. Very grateful to PlayStation for making it accessible live and through PlayStation Live services, because all of us could just simply play it day in day out without any expense. And I applaud also PlayStation services in response to many of my postings and discussions with their senior team, and I guess many other emails coming from all other streamers and gamers worldwide, to have made all those new games easily accessible for download, so we can download them to our console or to our external hard drive, and then we can also stream them if there is need. And I think that's tremendous, because considering how many startups there are out there on Twitch and YouTube, it's not unusual to expect for your costs to be cut as much as possible, which obviously for younger streamers would mean no access to recent games. And recent games, or the brand new games, are usually very expensive. In Britain they cost anything from £35 to £65 if you're buying the basic edition, and if you're after one of those platinum and gold, you're talking about £80, £90, £100 a piece. And indeed you can just purchase maybe one of those in a year because they're extremely expensive. And PlayStation now are to be applauded for providing us a few of those for their services, and then they're made easily accessible through downloads, and therefore once downloaded they can be also streamed. The same principle applies to Xbox Game Pass, and the difference there is that all of their games are downloadable, so we can download them all and play them as much as we want off our console, stream them accordingly. And I've seen some stories on the net indicating that Microsoft are much more in favor of Mixer rather than anyone streaming any of those games on Twitch. But at the end of the day, it's a competitive market out there, so people really need to consider what appears to be the best for them. Twitch is still the front runner in terms of the number of participants and members of Twitch community, and people come in and watch everything. But Mixer is also picking up, and one way or the other I applaud both Microsoft and Sony for making those games accessible for downloads. That makes a big difference. I was vouching for that. I talked to some of the executives while I was attending some meetings, and indeed very grateful for that to be made easily accessible to us all. The best game for me, maybe a full times, I'm loving it. I'm really devouring every bit of it, is Horizon Zero Dawn. And I have to sort of say that we did have a few people popping in here live on channel who were saying that they were not particularly pleased with Horizon Zero Dawn, and they told us as to why. But I find that really hard to fathom, really. What is the reason for somebody not to like that game? It is so beautifully designed, it's got such a good story, there's so many different activities. The graphics, the activities, the gameplay are so smooth. No wonder that this is one of the best Sony exclusives, and if you are an avid reader of PlayStation Magazine, you will know that they were favouring that game compared to Red Dead Redemption. But really, two of those games are the sequel of Red Dead, obviously. Two of those games are very similar in terms of how they approach the open world, and you will have a lot of fun by entering in and engaging with some of those characters. I absolutely love everybody that I've seen there, and I'm still playing it. The game's been introduced, I think, about 4 weeks ago to PlayStation Now services. So if you're a member, absolutely dive in and try it before it expires. They will have 3 months on the game, so I think it's about 6 or 7 weeks left. But the first thing you notice when you come to Horizon Zero Dawn is basically this massive, big, very seductive open world. And I know that some people like fast travel. We've seen that here in Destiny and in Fallout and, you know, various other games. But if you're a proper RPG fan, then don't fast travel. Just walk through everywhere, or ride your horse or animal, or, you know, drive a car, whatever you're offered by the game, and explore every single corner of it, because the more corners you explore, many more things you will discover, and therefore new quests, sub-quests, side missions will open up. And that is the case with Horizon Zero Dawn. I just love the graphics. If you are playing the game on a 60-inch TV, indeed if you have your own home cinema with a projector, the immersion is just really incredible. And I have to say, in Detroit, in Mass Effect, and also in Horizon Zero Dawn, I really fell for those characters, and you really want to scream, you know, when something is happening, saying don't go there, and, you know, go elsewhere, be careful. And if somebody dies, like for instance what happens in Horizon Zero Dawn quite a few times, that you really cry, you really feel so much for those characters. And I think this is a tremendous asset to the developer, and first and foremost, this is the way the gaming world should be progressing, because making it fully immersive and interactive with everybody stepping in and, you know, being there as an active participant should make you much more involved with those characters. You need to be more real. You need to feel real things as you're progressing, and that definitely has been very, very enjoyable for me to experience. Very impressed by the game, completely, literally from the beginning, and I fully agree with what's been said in PlayStation Magazine when they were reviewing it. I've not played Red Dead Redemption 2, and we've had 4 or 5 viewers popping in and saying how really they think it's the best open world ever created, you know, in Red Dead. But I really, you know, I have time constraints, and I did see some trailers and some gameplay, but as you know from my streams, I'm not that keen on watching other people play or watching lengthy gameplay sessions through various online magazines, because they kind of take away the enjoyment of discovery for me, and I much prefer watching and exploring the open world for myself. The story in itself perhaps will not be as badly affected, because I don't really pay attention as much to the story. It's the overall experience, but generally I prefer a bit to do it step by step. I can watch trailers, but, you know, gameplay I'll leave for some other rainy day, perhaps after I really complete the game. Then I enjoy watching other people's gameplay, because discover how they approach certain situations and what they've done, and compare that with my own viewpoint and my own you know, logic and reasoning when I was playing it, and therefore the gameplay becomes more enjoyable, i.e. watching other people's gameplay live online becomes more enjoyable after I completed the game. And then obviously at the end of it all, I have The Last of Us. You will know that we are expecting the sequel to come out. It is very hotly anticipated. There's a lot of hype about it. I attended Infogamer last year, where I absolutely enjoyed the presentations, and they had everything basically prepared for its release. We'll discover a lot more about the lead characters. We'll discover a lot more about the world and all that's happening there in the original. So for anyone who is still wondering whether The Last of Us is as good, Last of Us 2 is as good as they say, well, we actually will not know until the game is released, but until then you can simply enjoy the remastered edition, which is accessible through PlayStation Now services. And also, if you are a subscriber to PlayStation Now, to PlayStation Plus, then obviously you would have received that same remastered edition free of charge a few months back. So if you did receive it, if you do have it in the library, well, don't wait, just install it and play the game until the sequel is released. Okay, my friends, so these were the news and a few announcements that I had to make today. I want to keep you abreast with all that's been happening here with the channel. We are going to be having a bit of fun and a bit of gameplay in no time. We will continue with Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 as part of this channel, but I also will be providing you with a variety stream and my channel will be very much aligned with all of my gaming activities as I go along. So some of the games I mentioned will be streamed here: Detroit Becoming Human, Beyond Two Souls, Vampire, PUBG, Dishonored, The Evil Within, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn. So we are likely to be having some of those here. We'll have to see what type of continuity we can get if the streams are not as regular as they were before. But you can mark your diaries for weekends, and I will be having sometimes maybe lengthier sessions on Saturdays and Sundays. I still have to work out whether we'll have also our daily news sessions, the news bulletins, if I can fit them in, which were quite popular at one time. And as you could see, the channel is here to stay, and we are going to be cracking on with some interesting gameplay and discussion. In fact, I will be incorporating a lot more of dialogue and discussion and cutting down on the actual gameplay. Gameplay is, well, I find it to be, particularly delivered in a 4 to 6 hour format, very tiring. And I guess for some of the junior gamers it's all great fun, but we also want to be exploring the ins and outs of the gaming psychology, not just what we see on the screen, but also we want to find out as to why we do enjoy certain activities, why we are enlightened after we play certain games and perhaps terrified after doing others, and as to why gaming is one of the most widespread, most popular pastimes of today. Many more people do video gaming today than at any other stage in history, and in fact I was comparing it here on my channel to the golden era of Hollywood, because if you are familiar with the history of cinema, you probably will know that in the late 1920s and then particularly 1930s, all the way up to 1950s, the vast majority of people going to cinema as the cheapest and the best form of live entertainment that was present on the planet. People were learning about life, characters in other countries by watching films on silver screen, and they were paying relatively little in order to get entertained every single night of the week. And the number of people going to cinemas in America was absolutely phenomenal. I keep forgetting the actual number from the 1930s, but the hype, the excitement, the adventure that the flicks were offering is very similar to what we have here with video gaming of today. The difference is that we can do video gaming today on our home screens, on our television sets, on tablets, on computers, on our consoles, and with the new generation of consoles we are going to be having our own personalized server through xCloud, and therefore we will not need our console to go everywhere with us, but we'll be in position to access our own storage and our account that is going to be stored somewhere virtually, and therefore play the games from wherever we are. So as you could see, that is very similar to what people were doing in the 1930s, all entering a fantasy world. Secondly, unlike in cinema, we become active participants. Thirdly, we make new friendships with others, and we communicate and connect with like-minded souls from worldwide. And it doesn't really matter whether people are living in Antarctica or Russia or South Africa or America or France or Germany, UK or any other country. They all connect through the same interest, which in fact is possible instantly. You access your gaming hub or your Twitch streaming channel, and you bring people in, and they can talk at length about what they love doing the most, and that is their favorite pastime. I'm very interested in finding out more from everyone as to what draws them to certain games, what really makes somebody play survival and horror games, as to why people like shooters, and as to why some people are entirely dedicated to resolving puzzles and tricks and difficulties in adventure gaming. Everyone will find something that interests them, that provides them with the best entertainment, respite, and indeed with the fantasy world that is going to be giving them some encouragement and some rest from everyday stresses and worries. So that is going to be the focus of our channel. This is what we will do here. We'll be exploring all sorts of activities which are gaming related, more discussion, more reviews, more approaches to new products. And in fact, I did have a couple of reviews here of the AAA blockbuster betas, and I had lots of people coming. So these are the things which I have scheduled. I have to see how this works out with my schedule, whether I can fit everything in. but I think we are going to have perhaps things delivered in a smaller quantity, but with a greater number of participants. So that's the idea. Hope you guys enjoyed some of the announcements. Hope to see you all indeed in the near future when I come back. This is the end of my announcement, and after this I will do a bit of Destiny 1 and 2 gaming. We'll have shorter streams of some activities, and we'll get back to where we basically left it all off in September. And if you are still here with us, then just please stay with us, as I have to discontinue this broadcast in order to join my Destiny streams. As you know, when you're doing it on your console, you can't have the same continuity like what you have if you're doing it on the PC, and therefore these announcements will be ending shortly, and then we'll carry on with our Destiny world. So thank you all for coming, thank you for watching, thank you very much for all of your emails and good wishes, for Christmas and New Year, and for all of your communication that's been coming my way outside of my broadcast. Very, very heartened to see that people were enjoying the time here on the channel, and indeed they were missing all of our activities. We are back, and we are here to stay. So until then, I wish you all a very, very good evening.